Hello, dear friends. We will start our further lecture on reproduction and endocrinology. Last time we have seen how the spermatogenesis, how spermiogenesis, how sperm formation occurs. Now, next to that, how the maturation and how the feedback of the hormones is to be there. Uh, Last time we have seen some hormones. Of them, uh, the hormones are testosterone, luteinizing hormone, follicle stimulating hormone, and estrogen hormone. Now we will see growth hormone, GH. So this hormone, as the name is growth hormone, responsible for the control of growth of the organism or animal, as well as most of the other body hormones, we call it as, because it is responsible for the growth of the body, and therefore it is also called as body hormone. GH means growth hormones are necessary for controlling the background metabolites or metabolic functions of the testes. As we are studying here the reproduction, we will see here for the development of testes. Growth hormones specifically promotes early division of spermatogonia, means the new formation of the cells which are responsible for the formation of sperm are the spermatogonia, and these are controlled by these growth hormones. In its absence, means hormone, growth hormone, as in pituitary, dwarfs. If this hormone is not present in pituitary or not available or not able to release, then they becomes dwarf, not growing normally or more. Then spermatogenesis is severely deficient or absent, means sperm formation is totally absent or very rare, means deficient, and thus causing infertility and therefore not able to fertilize. Therefore, the growth hormone is very important in the development of the organs, sex organs, or development of sex gametes and all related tissues or cells. One important thing is that during the activity of these hormones to the testes or reproduction, the hormones which are releasing for the well-being of the organs and the fertilization or formation of the gametes is, suppose, not positive, if suppose it is negative, because the feedback mechanism is there everywhere in our body, mostly where the hormones are there, definitely a negative feedback system occurs in male with rising levels of testosterone. If testosterone level increases, the negative feedback will also be given to that and acting on the hypothalamus and anterior pituitary, because these are the two main endocrine glands which releases main hormone. And to inhibit the release of gonadotropin hormone, gonadotropin releasing hormone RH, follicle stimulating hormone FSH, and luteinizing hormone LH. So these three hormones are arrested for the release of their secretion if testosterone level rises, and this is nothing but the result of negative feedback system. The Sertoli cells produce the hormone inhibin, and this inhibin, when released into the blood, when the sperm count is too high, this inhibits the release of gonadotropin releasing hormone and follicle stimulating hormone, which will cause spermatogenesis to slows down. Means these hormones arrest the growth of the spermatophores or growth of the spermatophore forming cells, or in short, the whole process is arrested or slows down. If the sperm count reaches 20 million per ml, the Sertoli cells ceases the release of inhibin, allowing the sperm count to increase. The overall summary of hormonal control of male reproductive system is as follows. Pituitary hormone effects, luteinizing hormone and follicle stimulating hormone stimulates spermatogenesis, as we have seen here, and testosterone secretion by the testes. So this is the mechanism through which the secretion is being there. Hypothalamus is stimulated and releases gonadotropin releasing hormone. That hormone activates anterior pituitary and allows it to or orders it to or stimulate it to for the release of these two hormones, luteinizing hormone and follicle stimulating hormone. If these hormones are excess or if these hormones are in more, then the feedback is reaches to the hypothalamus as well as anterior pituitary, and they arrest the secretion of these two or any hormone, and naturally the hormone regulation is maintained. So these hormones, follicle stimulating hormone is stimulating the Sertoli cells to facilitate the spermatogenesis in the testes, and luteinizing hormone stimulates the Leydig cells in the testes, and the whole process is being controlled, and this is nothing but the hormonal control of spermatogenesis. So here are the testis hormones that we have already seen that if testosterone is secreted, then it can be inhibited by the negative feedback mechanism. This is negative feedback mechanism and this is positive feedback mechanism. So if there is a control of this hormone, then positive feedback will be there. If excess release will be there, the negative feedback goes to the target organs or brain. Now this is 6.1 what we have completed here. Then now 6.2 is the physiology of female reproduction. The female reproductive organs can be subdivided into the internal and external genitalia. The figure is given in the next slide. The internal genitalia are those organs that are within the true pelvis, and these includes the vagina, uterus, cervix, uterine tubes, including oviducts and fallopian tubes, in which fertilization occurs, and ovaries. The external genitalia lie outside the true pelvis. These include the perineum, mons pubis, clitoris, urethral or urinary meatus, labia majora, labia minora, vestibule, greater vestibular, Bartholin glands, skin glands, and periurethral area. So these are the external and these are the internal, from pelvis to the ovaries. So these are the two internal genital organs and external genital organs of the female reproductive system. In human embryo, the thousands or so oogonia divide rapidly from the 2nd to the 7th month of gestation to form roughly 7 million germ cells. After the 7th month of embryonic development, however, the number of germ cells drops precipitously. Most oogonia die during this period, while the remaining oogonia enter the first meiotic division, and in this way the female reproductive activity is carried out by these organs and through this way or method. So this one is the diagram which explains how the spermatogenesis or oogenesis, or we can say the formation of sperm or formation of ovum, is carried out. In male, the spermatogonium cell is divided mitotically into two, then it again divides into two and forms a four. In this way the development is there, cell division is there. Now this is the first phase. In second phase, growth phase, and third is the maturation phase. So in second phase, growth phase, these spermatogonial cells develops and grows in full size and forms primary spermatocyte. it undergoes further development and forms secondary spermatocyte. And whenever it again grows to a specific size and called as spermatids. So after mitotic division, the next one is the meiotic division. In meiosis, these spermatids develops into sperm, and this is the maturation or development phase, we can say, just maturation phase. And finally a black head and a tail sperm or spermatophore is developed. So from 1 to 2 and from 2 to 4. So this one is the n number of chromosome here, and here 2n number of chromosome meiosis. In this way the development is there. The same thing in oogonium or female reproduction takes place. In mitosis it becomes 2 and 2 again becomes 4. Then after second growth phase, the oogonium is developing into a large oocyte and having a central nucleus or yolk material, and again it divides. But here these three are the polar bodies, means they are reducing their growth here. As I told you that there is only one develops completely, and oocyte is developing into ootid, and ootid is developing into one ripe egg or matured egg, and in this way this oogenesis is followed. So spermatogenesis and oogenesis, both processes are carried out by this way in the body, or we can say germ cells. These latter cells, called the primary oocytes, progress through the first meiotic prophase until the diplotin stage, at which point they are maintained until puberty. Means unless and until they are not getting the maturity regarding the sex or sex organs, this process is carried out. With the onset of adolescence, groups of oocytes periodically resume the meiosis, and thus in human female, the first part of meiosis begins in the embryo, and the signals to resume meiosis is not given until roughly 12 years later. In fact, some oocytes are maintained in meiotic prophase for nearly 50 years. Primary oocytes continue to die even after the birth, and once they die, the further only second chain is continuous and one chain is completely vanished. Of the millions of primary oocytes present at birth, only about 400 mature during a woman's lifetime. Means among the millions of the oocytes, only few, like 400, matures throughout their lifetime. So this is very rare development. Now this is the procedure and steps. Now we will see the histological structure of the ovary. The ovary is a solid organ attached by its anterolateral border to the broad ligament. Means these ovaries are the organ where the ovum is developed, and this whole process, like the spermatogenesis, oogenesis, is carried out here. In the region of attachment known as the hilus, means the opening of ovary, hilus, are found smooth muscle fibers and numerous large vessels and lymphatics. Now the microscopic structure of ovary. This is the structure of ovary. This is the hilus. This is the opening. Now we will see one by one in details. Each ovary, figure 6.4. This one is the 6.4 histologic ovary. These are the Graafian follicles. These are corpus luteum. After developing ovum, completely releasing, it forms corpus luteum. Then atretic follicles. Then ruptured follicles after removing the ovum. Then interstitial tissues. Interstitial tissues. then corpus luteum, then germinal epithelium, these are the stroma, then these are retrogressive corpus luteum, primary follicles, secondary follicles, growing follicles, maturing follicles, and Graafian follicle. These are the steps of development of ovum. As the steps of development of spermatosis, we have seen spermatogonia, spermatocytes, spermatophore, sperm. In this way, the oogonium, or we can say primary follicle, secondary follicle, growing follicle, then maturing follicle, and Graafian follicle. These are the steps of development of ovum. We will see in detail after completion of this work. Here, each ovary, what we have seen now in figure, histologically consists the following parts. Ovary consists of an inner medulla and outer cortex. With distinct boundaries, the medulla contains the blood vessels and nerves, while the cortex is occupied by developing follicles. Also visible is a corpus luteum, the remnants of a follicle that has burst and sent its ovum into the genital tract. The germinal epithelium, from where the female or any germinative cell is developed or germinative organ is developed, we can say, like sperm and ovum, final product is developed, is the outer layer of simple epithelium. Generally it is of low cuboidal type or squamous type, and that covers the surface of the ovary. The term germinal epithelium is a misnomer because it does not give rise to ova, and the name came about because at one time people believed that it did, but right now it is not. Now we know that the progenitors of ova arises from the yolk sac and migrate to the ovaries during embryonic development. The tunica albuginea is a whitish capsule of dense irregular connective tissue located immediately deep to the germinal epithelium. The ovarian cortex is a region just deep to the tunica albuginea. The cortex surrounds a much smaller medulla or zona vasculosa and consists of a compact and highly cellular connective tissue stroma. So this is the structure what the ovary is there, the complete bag-like sac-like structure in which the embryonic development is completely forms the matured ova, and these are the layers which arises from the germinal epithelial cells up to the formation of the gamete, and these are the small, numerous and large ovarian follicles. The boundary between the cortex and medulla is indistinct, but medulla consists of more loosely arranged connective tissues and contains blood vessels, lymphatic vessels and nerves, whereas the cortex is somewhat strong. Second, Graafian or ovarian follicles. In mammals, young oocyte and the surrounding follicle cells together constitute a Graafian follicle. The outermost layer of a mature Graafian follicle is called the theca externa, which consists of concentrically arranged fibers and fusiform cells, which gives strength to the organ. Inside the theca externa, the cells appears large and ovoid or spindle shaped, and is known as the theca interna. This layer secretes the hormone estrogen just below the theca interna. Several layers of cells constitute the membrane granulosa, or we can say granulosa cells. A mature Graafian follicle consists of an eccentric cavity in the mass of follicle cells called antrum. The antrum is filled with a fluid called liquor folliculi. The oocyte, which lies eccentrically in the follicle, is surrounded by some granulosa cells called cumulus oophorus. A homogeneous membrane which occurs between the oocyte and the follicle cells is called zona pellucida. That we have already seen in figure, but again we will see the figure in which the names are given. This is the tunica albuginea, this is the outer layer. Then these small are the primary follicles. As they grow and develop, they form the secondary follicles and surrounded by the follicular material. Then third, it will growing follicle, it grows in large size. After growing, theca pellucida or folliculi is developing there, and this attachment of this larger maturing follicle, it grows in a full size, is called as matured follicle, and then whenever it is ready for release, it is called as Graafian follicle. So this ovum is ready to develop, and after release it contracts and it shrinks, called as corpus albicans, and this is a tetratic follicle in which only the stroma or matrix is there as a center, and whenever the ovum is releases from here, this ovum is releases from this follicle, it is called as ruptured follicle. The ovum is released and the remaining material is starts to contract, is called as corpus luteum. This corpus luteum is here. Then this germinal epithelial layer is there surrounding the corpus luteum near, and these are the materials which are pieces in the small pieces, open spaces like called as stroma. And finally this corpus luteum developing, the retrogressive corpus luteum is there. It completely shrinks down, and in this way from first to last, this development of oocyte is nothing but the oogenesis, and this one is the opening of the ovary called as hilus. Here is the hilus. So this is the histological structure of ovary and all about the female reproductive. So next we will see in the next lecture.